Warning, this video categorically contains spoilers, so if you aren't caught up with Season 8, Episode 3 of Game of Thrones, then maybe come back, or ruin it for yourself. Basically, whatever you want. So, White Walkers, the beardy pests that accompany the Night King as he does his frosty deeds. The coldest of groupies with piercing blue eyes and spears made of ice. We don't know who they are, or perhaps were. We don't know what they truly want, but we do know that they are death itself. So, what if White Walkers were real? Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions, the channel that looks to answer precisely those, along with some fantasy and fiction thrown in, because what is life without a little imagination? I'm your host Rebecca Felgate, and today I'm asking, what if White Walkers were real? What a question. Before we get into it, I want to ask you guys if you think that they are really gone. Has the Night King's army truly been wiped out? Or do you think that they'll be back? Also, while you're down there talking Game of Thrones, please do leave a thumbs up on this video and share it with a friend. Do check out the links in our description box to the social medias of the people that went into making this video. Okay. White Walkers. So White Walkers, or others as they're called in the book, are a bit of a mystery. What we do know is that they love a ritualistic murder. They love dismembering body parts into signs and symbols. What those symbols mean, well, we don't know. Since the first episode, Winter is Coming, the Stone Cold Killers have been creating creepy part art, and we saw it again in Season 8, Episode 1, Winterfell, when the little Lord Ned Umber is found dead among a spiral of limbs. The spiral is just like those seen in the field of dead horses beyond the wall in Season 3, and like a spiral seen by Bran in his vision when the Night King was created. I kind of feel robbed that the White Walkers are dead before we know what this spiral means, because actually it seems integral to who they are and how they were created. If White Walkers were real, I guess we would know about it when things started getting super cold worldwide. Crops would fail, we'd make a lot of snowmen, and also mutilated circles of body parts would start popping up in the icy plains of Siberia, which leads me to question where exactly the White Walkers would be coming from. Westeros is not the same as planet Earth. Where would our North be? We live on a globe. Are they hiding in the Arctic Circle, or again, because Earth be globy, are they hiding in Antarctica too? If they decided to march on the living, would they come from both directions, north and south? If so, would we all flock to the equator? Maybe we would be building whopping great arcs a la Noah and living the yacht life in the Med. So far as we're aware, White Walkers can't swim, although they could ride on dead dolphins or whatever. Wow, White Walkers riding zombie dolphins, not where I thought this video was going. Forget the dolphins for a second. The White Walkers may have a pretty key skill. We know that the Night King can raise the dead, but can the White Walkers do it too? The prologue of the book and the first ever episode of Game of Thrones Winter is Coming seems to suggest that White Walkers can raise the dead like the Night King, or they could be wargs, inhabitants of other people's bodies. In that case then, well, we saw what happened in the crypts of Winterfell. Let alone the people they could kill and raise if they could raise the dead. What if they went to mass burial sites and did their thing? We could have a zombie apocalypse on our hands. We don't know much about whites either, but they seem to just be vessels for killing rather than having any semblance of who they had been in their previous lives. But do the White Walkers? Do they know who they were or are? The main theory is that these beardy White Walkers are made up from babies. Season 4, Episode 4 shows what happens to Craster's inbred sons who are sacrificed. They are turned into White Walkers, but how they grow up, we don't know, and why they're only male, again, we don't know. Questions, so many questions. What are the death spirals about once again, and can they raise the dead? I just need to know. What is their ultimate purpose beyond just killing people? Could they survive without the Night King? Are there any left up there? Again, so many questions, and I need answers, I need them. The thing is though, when there's a baddie out there, nobody really actually stops to ask questions. Not in real life anyway. We do what the whole Winterfell gang did, which is kill it with fire. Or try, anyway. Throughout pretty much every single war in the history of all time, we have never stopped to truly level with the enemy and understand what they want and see if we can get to the root of the issue. The powers that be would simply try and nuke the icy devils, although plutonium probably wouldn't work. Dragonglass and Valyrian steel are the only known things that can kill White Walkers, so we'd better get looking for some, or finding a way to replicate its chemical makeup. A little final flick of my questioning quill, I've never called called it that before, I might stick with it. I like it. Again, a flick. So in Game of Thrones lore, a figure similar to the Night King, the Night's King, was out there. There was also an army of creatures that sounded a lot like White Walkers who were previously defeated by the so-called last hero. They begged the children of the forest to share their dragonglass weapons, and they pushed the White Walkers into the north, where Bran the Builder, the OG of House Stark, raised the wall with the magic from the children of the forest. Cool. They must have thought that the job was done. So my question is, when we killed Saddam Hussein and Hitler, when they were defeated, was that the end of extremism and dictatorships? If the White Walkers were real, perhaps they would be back. And my money is on Arya Stark's fatal stab, not actually being the final blow. One more twist of the question, Quill. Think on this. George R.R. Martin has previously linked the White Walkers and the coming of winter to climate change. At first, humans are ignorant, concerned with their own motives rather than worrying about the impending apocalypse. But when they finally start working together, that is when they can actually tackle the issue at hand and stop the long night. Thoughts. Please do share your thoughts with us. I do love a read of them, and do let me know if you think that the White Walkers will be back. What would you do if they were real? Run and hide, or grab your Valyrian steel? Also, if you do have any insights into why they're all lads and what on Westeros does that spiral mean, then I am all ears. While you're down there leaving me a comment, why don't you like this video and share it with a friend? But building on thoughts, I am reading your thoughts from What If We Contacted an Alien Civilization. Darth Vegeta said, what if all the people who died in the past 20 years suddenly came back to life? Do you know what? They might if White Walkers are on the scene. 00 IQ Power said that they would say the following to aliens. Me, pleading and fearing for my life. Please don't destroy us. Those in charge don't represent us as a collective. Oh, and the best thing about the arrival was that I could definitely very easily believe the scenarios that played out. Exactly. Fruity Tooty said, my greetings would be, hello, we would love to learn about your kind. Yes, we do love learning. Now I guess my question is, what would you say to a White Walker if you were staring one in the face? I guess you wouldn't have much time to reason or talk with them. Boo. Hiss. Thank you guys for tuning into this episode of Life's Biggest Questions. I'm your host Rebecca Felgate. I'll catch you in the next video. But until then, please do stay curious, stay alert, and never ever stop questioning.